Winter sports are thrilling, beautiful, and brutally unforgiving. At the edge of speed and control, one wrong move can mean instant tragedy. These aren't just accidents, they're the sport's darkest moments. From high-speed impacts to fatal design flaws, these are the 5 most devastating winter sport deaths ever recorded. It's January 29, 1994, just 2 weeks before the Winter Olympics would officially start. Ulrike "Uli" Meyer is one of the top ski racers in the world, a world-class alpine racer and 2-time champion in Super G, which is a form of alpine racing that involves the giant slalom. At 26 years old, she's already established herself as one of Austria's most beloved sports figures, known not just for her incredible skill, but also for her radiant smile and down-to-earth personality. But today isn't about the Olympics yet. It's about the Women's World Cup in Garmisch-Partenkirchen, Germany. The event is being broadcasted live on TV, and fans, including her own 4-year-old daughter Melanie, are watching her in person. The atmosphere is electric, with spectators lining the course to witness these elite athletes push the boundaries of human capability. Uli is about to race, giving it her all. She's wearing bib number 32 in a field of 67 racers. Though downhill isn't her specialty, she's ranked 41st out of 53 in the overall downhill standings. She's still a formidable competitor in any alpine discipline. Her Super G and giant slalom prowess have helped her climb to 4th place in the overall World Cup standings. Her downhill race starts off great. Her form is immaculate, and she's showing the world once again what kind of skill and precision she actually has. She navigates the upper part of the course flawlessly, even handling the icier sections that had concerned racers earlier in the day. She completes the upper sections of the course and reaches a speed of around 65 miles per hour on the 1.7-mile Kandahar course. She's now less than 20 seconds away from the finish line, on a seemingly straightforward gliding stretch, when suddenly her right ski catches an inside edge of soft snow, causing her to lose control completely. She's thrown off course immediately, and her body strikes a timing post at enormous speeds. The impact is catastrophic. She breaks her neck despite wearing a helmet. Her helmet flies off, and she tumbles over several times before sliding limply to a stop in the middle of the run. The world, and her 4-year-old daughter, witness as she lies there unconscious. The race is immediately halted. Medical teams come to the rescue, attempting resuscitation right on the slope. She's placed in a stretcher and winched up to a helicopter, which flies her to a nearby hospital 15 miles away. But there's nothing they can do. She had no chance, said Günther Hoffmann, the chief doctor at the hospital. Her neck was broken, the main artery was ripped, and no surgery was possible. She was pronounced dead about 2.5 hours after the crash. Uli had been planning to retire at the end of the season to spend more time with her daughter. She was 4th overall in the Women's World Cup standings and would have been a strong medal contender at the upcoming Olympics in Norway. What makes this tragedy even more heartbreaking is that Meyer and her long-term companion Hubert Schweighofer had planned to wed in the fall. They were going to take over the ski school owned by Uli's father and finally establish their first permanent home in Rauris, Austria. Her death sent shockwaves through the skiing community. The Austrian team was devastated. She was the 5th member of their ski team to die in just 3 years. Her funeral in Rauris drew 5,000 mourners to a village with only 3,000 residents. Schweighofer reacted with anger, blaming the organizers. For 4 years, the experts have been working on safety, and this has shown that nothing has improved, he said. Uli's legacy lives on as a reminder of the extreme dangers that winter sports athletes face. Her story changed the sport forever, leading to significant improvements in safety measures for alpine skiing. To this day, she remains the only woman to have lost her life on a World Cup course. It's February 12, 2010, just hours before the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics in Vancouver, Canada. Among the many athletes gathered is Nodar Kumaritashvili, a 21-year-old luge athlete from Georgia. He comes from a family deeply connected to the sport. His grandfather actually introduced the activity to Soviet Georgia, and both his father and uncle competed when they were younger. The venue where the luge athletes will be competing is the Whistler Sliding Center. But before the Olympic Games even began, there were already a number of concerns about the place. During testing, the luge speeds exceeded calculations by 6 miles per hour, reaching up to 95 miles per hour, which made the International Luge Federation president Josef Fendt concerned about the athlete's safety. "The track is too fast," he warned. "We've never seen speeds like this before." Even American luger Mark Grimmett, a 5-time Olympian, said the speeds on the track were pushing the boundaries of safety. "We're probably getting close," he said. "This track is fast and you definitely have to be on your game." Australian luger Hannah Campbell-Pegg nearly lost control during training and voiced her concerns. "I think they are pushing it a little too much. To what extent are we just little lemmings that they just throw down a track and we're crash test dummies? I mean, this is our lives." Nonetheless, the Vancouver Committee for the Olympic Games deemed it as safe, which might have been the wrong call. Nodar is taking his final training run. He starts by launching himself onto the sled, and like always, it starts off quite normal. He makes the first few turns successfully and keeps getting faster and faster, faster than he could ever imagine. He navigates through the course at breakneck speeds, his body just inches from the ice. He does more and more turns, and everybody watching him doesn't seem too worried until he reaches the final turn of the course, curve 16. This is where he suddenly loses control at nearly 90 miles per hour. His sled climbs high on the wall, and he's thrown off his luge and over the track's edge. In a split second, he crashes into an unpadded steel support pole at the end of the run, with a speed of 89 miles per hour. The impact is devastating. Medical teams rush to his side immediately, performing CPR and mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Within minutes, he's airlifted to a nearby hospital, but the trauma is too severe. Nodar Kumaritashvili is pronounced dead shortly after arrival, becoming the first luge fatality since 1975. The entire country of Georgia is in shock. The Georgian Olympic delegation considers withdrawing from the Games entirely, but ultimately decides to stay and compete in honor of their fallen teammate. During the opening ceremony that evening, the Georgian athletes march in wearing black armbands, behind their flag draped with a black ribbon. The stadium gives them a standing ovation as a sign of respect and solidarity. IOC President Jacques Roguet appears visibly shaken when addressing the media. "This is a very sad day," he says. "The IOC is in deep mourning." In response to the tragedy, officials make immediate changes to the track. They raise the wall at the final curve, install padding on the steel poles, and move the men's luge start farther down the track to reduce speeds. The women's and doubles' starting positions are also lowered. An investigation later concludes that a complex series of interrelated events led to the accident, citing Nodar's relative inexperience on the challenging track as a contributing factor. However, many question whether the track should have been designed to be so fast in the first place. Nodar's body is flown back to Georgia, where thousands attend his funeral in his hometown of Bakuriani. His father, David Kumaritashvili, later builds a small memorial near their home, where he often sits to remember his son. The legacy of Nodar Kumaritashvili lives on as a sobering reminder of the extreme dangers winter athletes face. His death led to significant safety improvements in luge tracks worldwide, but for his family and country, these changes came at an unimaginable cost. It's January 10th, 2012, and Sarah Burke is the best Canadian freestyle skier. She's extremely skilled, winning the gold medal in the Winter X Games a total of 5 times, an event that includes freestyle skiing. She also won the World Championship in the halfpipe in 2005, which is actually the same sport she managed to introduce to the Olympic Games for the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia. It's safe to say that she's at the top of her field and extremely influential. The only achievement that could make her career even more impressive would be to participate and win in the Olympics. But before that could happen, she decided to compete in the Winter X Games once again. Unfortunately, she would be long gone by the time of both the Olympics as well as the Winter X Games. Sarah is training at the Park City Mountain Resort in Utah. She's practicing on the Super Pipe, which is a large U-shaped structure for freestyle skiing and snowboarding. The Park City Super Pipe has walls that rise nearly 90 degrees and 22 feet high. Snowboarders have been doing flips, twists, and turns on similar courses for years. Burke helped bring the sport to skiing. While performing her routine and practicing her tricks, Sarah flips in midair and falls onto her head. It's a shocking sight at first, but the accident doesn't appear to be tragic. She's conscious and onlookers don't worry too much, until just seconds later, she goes into cardiac arrest. She wasn't actually okay. The fall resulted in a ruptured vertebral artery, which led to severe brain damage due to the lack of oxygen and blood. It's the brainstem, located at the bottom of the brain and tucked inside the back of the skull, that controls breathing and heart function. Basically, there are 4 major blood vessels that bring blood to the brain, and 2 are at the back of the head, come up from the back, explained Dr. Michael Cusimano, a neurosurgeon at St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto. They're called the vertebral arteries because they come through the bones of the neck and then get to the brain. Medical teams eventually arrive and bring her to the University Hospital in Salt Lake City, where she's placed in a medically induced coma. On January 11th, she had surgery to repair the torn artery and had been in a medically induced coma until January 19th. Truly one of the worst timings possible for an already very tragic crash. Unfortunately, she left this earth on January 19th, just 9 days later, from what seems like such a small mistake in her routine. Sarah passed away peacefully surrounded by those she loved, says a statement from the medical center. In accordance with Sarah's wishes, her organs and tissues were donated to save the lives of others. Burke, who lived in Whistler, BC, will go down as one of the legends of her sport. Born in Barrie, Ontario, and raised in Midland, Burke got her start skiing with her family when she was 5 years old. She took up mogul skiing and competed for Team Ontario, before switching to freestyle and winning the halfpipe competition at the 2001 US Open free skiing. Sarah was a person who I think in many ways was larger than life and lived life to the fullest, said Peter Judge, CEO of the Canadian Freestyle Ski Association. She was a phenomenal representative of her sport and of young people and of sport in general. On February 23, 2014, her ashes were spread in the mountains over Sochi, Russia, during the 2014 Olympic Games. Her former coach, Trenan Painter, spread them in the halfpipe as a tribute to her legacy, the very sport she fought so hard to include in the Olympics. It's March 10, 2012 at Grindelwald, Switzerland. It's the 8th final of the Ski Cross World Cup season, an event where skiers race down a course filled with turns and jumps. Ski cross is often called one of the most dangerous disciplines in skiing because of the high velocity and sharp turns. But Nick Zoricic is no stranger to these risks. He's representing Canada on the world stage today with a decent track record. He already finished second at a Ski Cross World Cup in 2011. The 29-year-old Zoricic, who grew up in Toronto, had raced on the World Cup circuit for more than 3 years and was competing in his 36th event in Grindelwald. The day of the event starts like always. The fans are cheering and excited to watch the race while the athletes are mentally preparing themselves for the next couple of minutes. The course is challenging but familiar to most competitors. A winding track with jumps, rollers, and banked turns. The moment Nick starts, he's in top form. He's going through the upper sections of the course without any big problems. He's just slightly behind the others as they approach the final jump. He's traveling at around 60 miles per hour when a section comes where he needs to jump. And this is where things take a turn for the worse. He misjudges the final jump and launches off the edge. He flies to the right and misses the landing zone entirely. Nick crashes into the safety netting at the side of the course. The impact is catastrophic. The viewers don't realize the tragic event that just happened in front of their very eyes. Medical teams rush to his aid, but it's simply too late. Despite all the safety precautions, Nick sustains fatal head injuries. At just 29 years old, Nick Zoricic's life comes to an abrupt and heartbreaking end on live TV. Nick was a very talented, experienced, and skilled World Cup skier. He was a multiple-time Canadian champion, said Max Gardner, president of Alpine Canada. He was a model athlete who was extremely dedicated to his sport. This very thing ended up sparking a lot of talk about the safety regulations of the sport. A lot of people, including his family, are convinced that his death could have been prevented. The police, however, reported that this was just another sporting accident and not due to any flaw in the ski course. But 2 years later, in a letter to his parents, the International Ski Federation called Zoricic a talented, experienced, and skilled World Cup skier who did not take unnecessary risks. It would therefore not be right to describe his accident as a freak accident or pilot error, the Federation's president and secretary general wrote. The Federation further stated that they had updated their safety guidelines and beefed up the staff and experts who help organizers construct courses. Among more stringent guidelines now in place is one calling for a much greater distance between the finish line post and fencing. Hard objects, such as large mounds of packed snow, will no longer be allowed near the finish. Nick's family established the Nick Zoricic Foundation to promote safety in skiing and ensure that no other athlete has to suffer the same fate as him. The International Ski Federation also committed $250,000 over 5 years to the foundation. "We were not prepared to accept that Nick was responsible for his own death," said Tim Danson, the family's lawyer. "We just wanted the truth to be acknowledged." Nick Zoricic was born in Sarajevo, Bosnia-Herzegovina, 1 year before the city hosted the 1984 Winter Games as part of the former Yugoslavia. He moved to Canada at age 5, where his father, Bibi, became an established alpine coach at the Craigleith Ski Club in Ontario. His legacy lives on through the foundation that bears his name and through the safety improvements implemented in ski cross competitions worldwide. At the Sochi Olympics in 2014, Canadian ski cross racers wore denim-style ski pants as a tribute to their former teammate, who was known for wearing jeans on the mountain. It's January 18, 1991, and this is a picture of Gernot Reinstadler taken on Christmas 1990, just weeks before he would suffer one of the most gruesome deaths in skiing history. Born on August 24, 1970 in Austria, Gernot was regarded as one of the most promising young talents of the Austrian downhill team. He was a rising star in the alpine skiing world, competing in the Junior World Cups of 1988 and 1989, and winning 3 medals in the Austrian Junior Cup. His future seemed destined for greatness. That day was one of the most important days of Gernot's career. It was his chance to prove himself, to solidify his place among the best. He had been selected to compete in the qualification round for the legendary Lauberhorn race in Switzerland. If you're not familiar with the Lauberhorn, it is the longest and most challenging downhill race in the Ski World Cup. It stretches over 3 miles, and skiers can reach speeds of over 100 miles per hour. Only the 30 fastest competitors would have the opportunity to be on the world stage, and Gernot was determined to be one of them. Starting as number 44, he was filled with energy, so much so that his teammate Armin Asinger considered warning him about being too reckless during the warm-up. He held back, however, thinking that a young athlete like Gernot shouldn't be limited. The qualification race was broadcast live, and for the first 2.5 minutes, Gernot raced down the course successfully. It seemed like the world would see him attending the World Cup very soon. But right before he's able to reach the finish line, something so disturbing yet unbelievable happens. Gernot loses control and crashes into the safety nets at full speed. But instead of saving him, the net becomes a death trap. One of his skis gets caught in them while he proceeds to fly forward. A significant portion of his pelvis cracks, and he's almost ripped into 2 parts. The video is way too graphic to show you. It seems like the white snow is now covered in red. Paramedics rush to his side, trying everything in their ability to mitigate the damage until a helicopter transports him to the local hospital. He has a 6-hour emergency surgery with numerous blood transfusions, but it's not enough. Gernot unfortunately leaves this earth shortly after midnight on the 19th. His death sent shockwaves through the entire skiing world, and definitely left thousands of people traumatized. The 1991 Lauberhorn race was canceled in his honor, and more importantly, his accident led to significant improvements in safety measures, especially in the redesign of the safety nets to ensure that no skier would ever suffer such a horrifying event ever again. Reinstadler was our downhiller of the future, Austrian veteran Peter Wernsberger said following the accident. Organizers moved quickly to cancel the 2-race World Cup program that weekend, and the Austrian team left quickly, all in a state of shock. Eric Demetz, the president of the International Ski Federation FIS World Cup Committee, said the organization regretted the tragic accident, but underlined that the safety precautions had been according to the requirements. No matter what precautions we take, we have to consider that accidents like this will happen again in the future, FIS safety expert Sepp Messner said. In the past, we have had incredible luck that this has never happened before, especially at Kitzbühel. Gernot Reinstadler's tragic death at just 20 years old remains one of the most horrific accidents in winter sports history. A stark reminder of the extreme dangers these athletes face every time they push themselves to the limit. Thanks for watching as we explored the most devastating winter sport deaths ever caught on record. But if you thought this was intense, it only gets darker from here. Our next video dives into the most gruesome world record attempts that ended in decapitation. Real stories, real horror. Click now to watch.